My name is David Morton. I'm the Landscape Curator here at Brucemore. It's a 26-acre estate located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and it's one of the few National Trust historic sites in the Midwest. And this show is about how to create this little piece of paradise in your own backyard. A day in the life of a gardener. Previously on A Day in the Life of a Garden. So I'm here with my colleague Jessica. I couldn't think of anybody better to talk to me or us about the Lord Burnham greenhouse.
The company started in 1849, started by a carpenter. His name was Frederick A. Lord. He was building greenhouses in his hometown for his friends, basically, and became really popular. He decided to start doing it on a bigger scale. A few years later, 1872, his son-in-law joins the firm, so he's the Burnham in Lord Burnham.
Oh my gosh. Was it a common thing for the elite to have these greenhouses on their property?
Yes. Brucemore was originally built with a conservatory on the south side. The Douglases removed that around 1906, 1907, when they started kind of redoing the mansion to suit their own tastes. So we think there was a period roughly from around 1908 to around 1914 when we don't know of any greenhouses or conservatories being on the property. And around 1915 is when we believe the Lord Burnham greenhouse was constructed.
Is there a significance as to where it is on the property?
I think it was probably for proximity to both the servants' duplex, which is right next door, and it's also fairly close to the garden, so we don't have to kind of cart things all the way across the property.
Right. So this structure is over 100 years old. Mm-hmm. It's had some ups and downs, been through many things. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what we've done?
So the Lord Burnham greenhouse, built around 1915, has kind of had a bit of a wild ride in its lifetime. So it was used by the Douglas family pretty much unaltered in its original state until around 1940. At that point, the property had passed over to the Hall family, and they decided to expand the greenhouse. So they added basically an addition to the greenhouse portion of the building, expanded it so they could propagate more plants, and they also added some cold frames around the outside, around the exterior of the building. In 1981, when we became a historic house museum and a kind of community cultural center, we continued using it. We kept cultivating all of the plants for the garden, and it just got a lot of use.
When I first started here, it was like a dilapidated building. It was very sad.
Yeah, it was not in great shape. The glass had to be removed around 2008 because there was concern that it was going to kind of start collapsing on itself. So some immediate preservation kind of took place at that point, and then in 2011 we started on a major restoration project of the greenhouse. It took off that addition from 1940 and restored it back to its original 1915-ish appearance. We automated it at that point, which you love, but we left a lot of the original mechanics in place so people can still see how it would have functioned historically. And then it worked that way for a number of years, but then unfortunately a pretty traumatic day for both of us, August 10th, 2020, during our derecho storm. The greenhouse met with a unkind event, and a tree fell on it, as we both remember. That did a lot of damage to it. It needed some pretty significant restoration again to the glass house portion of it. The head house was mostly intact. So that restoration went through, got it back up and running, it's working again, but now the head house is in need of some pretty major restoration. So that's going to be the upcoming preservation project for this coming year. So we'll be doing some preservation on the head house, the servants' duplex, and the book bindery. So
huge.
It's going to be a big project. It's going to be a big project.
We have 7 historic structures on the property.
Yep.
So you can't just let them go.
Nope. Something is always requiring attention.
And I do remember that other half when I first came here being on this greenhouse. And I thought that was interesting when the folks came that were restoring the piece had mentioned that wasn't original to the Lord Burnham greenhouse. There was probably, we don't know, but probably Howard Paul's manufacturing
Right.
company
Yep.
that might have built some of that.
Exactly. Howard owned a manufacturing company called Iowa Steel and Iron Works, and they manufactured all kinds of steel products. And so it's totally within the realm of possibility that he wanted the greenhouse expanded, so he just had his own factory and his own workers come out and do it for him. But we do know that this closely resembles a model number 501 Lord Burnham greenhouse. So we can at least look back on those old Lord Burnham catalogs and say, oh yeah, this is the one that is very close to our own greenhouse. So that helps us to know exactly what it is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to function.
That's interesting, because when I think of a Lord Burnham greenhouse, I think of this one, not only, I guess, because I've worked in it, but it seems like when you see the pictures of those catalogs back in the day, it had something like this pictured. They're very simple and looked really quaint, and like, yeah, I've got to have one of those on my 26-acre property. So how many Lord Burnham greenhouses do you think there are around the country or even in the world? Are they still there? and
Yeah,
used?
there's actually quite a few. I don't have exact numbers, but given how many greenhouses the company manufactured, there are actually still a lot of examples out there. So some of the ones that people are probably most familiar with are the Conservatory of Flowers at Golden Gate Park, which we talked a little bit about earlier. The New York State Botanical Center has a big Lord Burnham, and the U.S. Botanical Garden in D.C., kind of the big national one, they're all Lord Burnham. So you can see those big conservatory sort of greenhouses that they manufactured, but then you can also see some smaller examples on other historic estates like Brucemore. So the two most prominent ones that I can think of is the one at Lyndhurst, and Lyndhurst is also a National Trust for Historic Preservation property, so a sister property of ours. And then at Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina, they've also got a big Lord Burnham. Now theirs are a lot fancier than ours is.
Really
this one is a little bit more accessible than those other ones. Now, nevertheless, I think this one's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
For coming today. I always learn a lot from you. We're lucky to have her, and I really appreciate you coming and taking the time and talk to us a little bit about our Lord Burnham greenhouse. So if you're in the neighborhood, come and check it out. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section, and like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. So thank you, and we'll see you next time on A Day in the Life of a Garden. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more, hit the like button, the notification bell, and subscribe to the channel.